Hi, Shelly and Leila. So I received some response from Event Espresso, and they explained to me how we could achieve what we're looking for. So I just decided to do a little bit of a video recording to show you the different relationships between registration status and transaction status in Event Espresso. I put it all in this little spreadsheet that basically displays, what the registration status may be, what the transaction status may be, and then that particular combination, what does it mean in terms of what the user actions are to get you to that state, what happens to the emails in that situation, and then whether there is some possible further action to take. So I'm going to go through a quick demo of each one of these steps. But basically now when the user goes through the entire registration process and they get to the thank you page, the registration status will always show as approved. That way, without a doubt, we can identify any registrations that we need to pay attention to. Anyways, I'm going to do the demo and this is going to make a lot more sense. So I have different tabs open here. I have my email where I'm going to receive my notifications. I have this tab open that shows the all registrations area. So here is where you see all of them. And then I have another tab open where I have the incomplete registrations, and I'll show you how they appear here at different stages. And then I have my main training.net, pmctraining.net site, which is the test site. So the first thing that I'd like to point out is for this to work, we need to do one change. So if, for example, I open this appreciative inquiry course page, so I'm going to come here, and this is where I'm going to register in a second. But just to show you something, I need to go into Event Espresso edit event to show you the edit page. Here on the right side, there is something on the event registration options. There is something called default registration status. Before, it used to be like this, pending payment. I changed it to be approved. So now when a registration, if a user gets all the way through the registration process, the default status is going to be approved. And this is going to make any invoice me registrations to actually make it all the way to approved. I'm going to look into making this change automated so I can change it all of them at once. If not, it's going to be just a manual process to come into every course page and change that registration status default to approved, right? So that's kind of the requirement number one for this to work. So I'm going to go back and then I'm going to register for this particular course. So I'm going to go back to my public registration list. I'm going to click that course, Appreciative Inquiry, and then I'm going to register for it. Select my ticket, register now. So after this first step, I'm now in the attendee information step. If I go and check my list of registrations, I'm going to go here into my incomplete list of registrations, and I'm going to refresh this page. So you'll see that now I have this registration ID 333, which is the one that I just started. So there is no registrant information yet, and it always appears here on the incomplete section of the event registrations list, right? So this, as you can see, says registration status is incomplete, and transaction right now is considered failed. And if you look at the spreadsheet, this is what I have here. At the beginning, the registration status is incomplete and the transaction is failed. What this means is that the user started a registration but has not moved past the attendee information step. So no emails have been sent. And in terms of actions, well, there is no actions from our part. Maybe this will give you some insight into what kind of courses have more interest because somebody started a registration. Okay, so that's case number one. Now, if I go back to my my page here, So the registrant will, fill out all the details and then move on to the next step, which is the payment options. So now they land here. Please disregard this message. This is just because it's the test site. So now they will land here and they have to choose a method of payment. Meanwhile, in Event Espresso, if I go back to this incomplete list and I refresh, you will see how this record disappears from here, from the incomplete list. So the 333 is no longer here. If I go to my View All Registration section and I refresh, you'll see that this registration now appears here. However, appears as pending payment and the transaction is incomplete. So if we go back to my spreadsheet, this is the second one, pending payment, and the transaction status is incomplete. It may be failed if they attempt a credit card transaction and it fails. But in either of those cases, what this means is that the user moved past the attendee information step, but has not completed the payment successfully. Again, no emails have been sent at this stage. And then at this point, we have attendee information, which, if you want to include in your process, reaching out to anybody who almost completed the registration, and you want to reach out to them and ask them if they want to complete the registration, maybe that's something that you would be interested in doing. And you can identify that by looking at this pending payment and transaction incomplete. So I'm going to go back and now I'm going to select a method of payment. And here's the difference with what was causing confusion before, is that if I selected Invoice Me and then I click Proceed to Finalize Registration, before, this status of this registration wouldn't change. It would continue to be on pending payment and incomplete. And that's the confusion, right? Because if somebody aborted before getting to the last step, we wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But now, if I click Proceed to Finalize Registration, okay, I get to the thank you page. And now if I go back and refresh my page of registrations, okay, you will see that this says now approved and this says incomplete, which means that this is an Invoice Me transaction, which is what I'm explaining here. So if the registration is approved and the transaction is incomplete, it means that the user got to the thank you page and registration is complete with the Invoice Me payment method. The email sent, well, they get the registration approved email template, and that was sent to the participant, and a copy was sent to the administration. In terms of next steps, well, you would process this registration as you would normally process an old e-commerce Invoice Me registration. In terms of emails, we come back here, we'll see that, I got 2 emails. One is the main email. Please disregard that it shows 2. This is because I was doing a previous test. But if we go into that, you'll see that this was sent to me, which is my email address here, and is the normal registration email that has what you are familiar with already, all the different information about the registration, your link to your invoice, that kind of thing, right? What you would expect from somebody who chooses to the Invoice Me method. And then a copy is sent to the administration, and this is another change that I made. I now am prepending with BCC all the emails that go to admin to make it easier to make the distinction. And because I am in the testing environment, you can see that they are all prepended with test. So this is the email that was sent to the admin, and you can see here that this is my admin email that I'm using right now. And then it's just the exact same email that was sent out. So 2 emails were sent, one to the admin and one to the primary registrant with the approved registration template in Event Espresso. Okay, so we're in this third step. So now I'm going to demonstrate the last one. So from this thank you page, I'm just going to go and find another workshop. And then I'm going to follow the same process, except that this time I'm going to pay with a credit card. So up until this step, so I'm actually going to go ahead and move to the payment step. Now I'm in the payment step, and if I go back to my list of registrations, as you would expect, I will have 334, and this one says pending payment incomplete, right? Which is the same state that we were before. You know, it says pending payment incomplete, which means that I moved past the attendee information, but I haven't completed the payment step. Now, before we went into this for the invoice me, now we're gonna go into this, which is the credit card payment. So I'm gonna select pay by credit card, and I'm gonna provide here my credit card details. That is a test credit card number. I'm gonna provide a valid expiry date, some random code, and I'm gonna proceed to finalize the registration. Okay, so I got to the thank you page. So in this case, if I go back and look at my registration, this 334, you will see that now it says approved and the payment says complete, which in my spreadsheet I have approved, complete. This means that the user got to the thank you page and the registration is complete with credit card payment method. And the email sent, here is another difference now in this new setup, because now we are approving any registration that makes it all the way to the end. It means that now we have one template for registration approved, which is the normal information that you're used to, minus the actual payment transaction section. So now I created another, or I updated more like the payment received template to have that payment transaction. So now this person will receive two emails, one for the registration and one for the payment. And then a copy of each one of those emails is sent to the admin. So if I go back here and look at my email, so let's go one by one here. So you can see that this bottom one here is the payment received, and this is the new email that you haven't seen before, and this was sent to me, which I'm the primary registrant. And what I did here, and you can change it if you want, but what I did here is I basically removed any of the additional information that normally is sent to the registrant, and I just sent the minimum information, making very clear that this is a thank you payment message, right? So I have payment all over the place. I still left the registration information and the workshop information for information purposes. And then here at the bottom, you can see the transaction receipt, the transaction record, with the transaction ID from Event Espresso, actually from the Chase payment gateway, and then just, the contact information. So this is the part that used to be at the bottom of the receipt. Now it's on a separate email so that, we can benefit from in Event Espresso having all registrations approved, and those are the ones that we need to pay attention to. And then, the transaction tells you whether, if somebody paid with a credit card or somebody pays with invoice me method. But in both cases, the registrations are approved. Okay, so this is what outlines that, and then so I just wanted to show you for this new one that we said that it's approved and complete. If you go here on view related messages, you will see that this kind of registration that is paid with a credit card has 4 emails registered here, and they are all in green, which means that they were all sent. So 2 of them is for registration approved, 1 sent to the event admin and 1 sent to the primary registrant, and 2 for the payment received, again 1 for the event admin, 1 for the primary registrant. If we look at the other one that was paid with an invoice, if I look at the related messages, you'll see that there are only two, right? For registration approved, one to the event admin, one to the primary registrant. Okay, so when you are in this main page, if you don't want to be dealing with those registrations that are pending payment, incomplete, because basically these are the ones that are being abandoned, you can always select here in the filter approved, you apply the filter, and you won't have to deal with the other ones. You will only see the actual registrations that are going through. And then you can discern between credit card and invoice by looking at the transaction state. Okay? And likewise, if you want to see the ones that are being abandoned, you can always go to pending payment and apply the filter. And these are basically the ones that are being abandoned. Pending payment incomplete here, which means that the user moved past the attendee information step, but has not completed the payment successfully. So because we have contact information for those, you might want to reach to them. Maybe you can gain some business from knowing that these people had interest, but are not completing the last step for the payment. Anyways, this is available on pmctraining.net. I will add you back as the admin email recipient, because right now it's only my email address that is being sent out to, and then you can test it on your own, and then you can let me know if this approach works for you. I think it reaches a good compromise of, even though we have to send two separate emails, one with the receipt and one with the information for the registration itself, it cleans up very well here on the admin to actually only see approved registrations, which means people who made it all the way to the end. Okay, let me know.